at the end. So any questions that you have as we go, feel free to pop them in the chat or hold till the end and you can unmute and we can have a conversation too. But we're really, grateful. It's a crazy busy time of year. It's a wild, snowy morning. So thank you for making the time to connect and hear a little bit about some of the things that are happening at the food group and some of the things that we're just seeing in the food system. So we appreciate you all being here so much. Most of you know kind of what we do at the food group, so I'm not going to talk too much about this, but just a reminder that we really are trying to think about how we can have a food system that works better for everyone, including folks who've been intentionally left out of the food system. And so we're doing that through three main program areas: our hunger relief work, partnerships with food shelves meal programs, our affordable grocery programs, and then our land-based education at Big River Farms. But instead of me talking too much about what we do, we did want to share a new video, super short, so it's not a long video, but it talks a little bit about how our work continues to evolve to meet the changing needs of the community. And we're really excited we're able to work with a local illustrator. Her name's Capricia Ambers, and she made illustrations to kind of capture our work. It's the first time that we've done something like this. So we'll watch this to just kind of ground our conversation, and then we'll get into more of what we're seeing on the ground.
Michael.
And then just a reminder to mute if you can. Isn't it funny? It's spinning. It never did that before. We really did try this part.
The food group was the first food bank in Minnesota to recognize that meaningful hunger relief work requires a holistic approach with a long-term view. We are proud of our evolution, and we consistently pursue innovative approaches to building a better food system. We were the first food bank to focus on nutritious fresh fruits, vegetables, and high-quality proteins. We were the first food bank to focus on culturally connected foods to meet the needs of all households. And we were the first to evolve to be more than a food bank. Today, our programs spread across the food system, from production to distribution. We operate a 150-acre farm focused on farmer education to support the local food economy. And we operate low-cost grocery sites so folks can shop right in their neighborhoods. We know that communities of color have less access to food and farmland. This is why we advocate for a more just and equitable food system, from farmer education and resources at Big River Farms to our food bank distribution, to affordable grocery access through Fare for All and our mobile market. We believe access to nutritious food is fundamental for strong and healthy communities. We are providing food today and are working for change tomorrow. We are the food group. Join us in our effort.
Now I have to see if I can get past this slide, which so far I can't. So hang on. Is everyone impressed with my tech skills so far?
The food group was the first food bank in...
Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna do one thing quick. Hang on, bear with me. Okay.
Minnesota to recognize that meaning.
I'm going to figure this out in a second here. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Thank you for your patience. The best laid plans. Okay. So I wanted to just start with a quote that we received from a participant. Her name is Elizabeth, and she goes to a food shelf called Neighbors in South St. Paul. And Elizabeth was just sharing that she had recently moved to Minnesota. She was struggling to get on her feet. And she was going to Neighbors, and what she said it's helped me a lot financially with inflation, with COVID, with everything. I felt this place has really helped me get ahead. I just got my real estate license. I can't say it's not the money I've saved here, the time I've saved here, that hasn't helped me be able to take the time to do that. And so I think what Elizabeth captures kind of beautifully in what she shared with our team is that there are so many things right now that are making accessing food so challenging. We've got lasting effects from COVID, the ripple effect of the economy. And at the same time, we have all sorts of federal food programs that existed during COVID that have sunsetted, whether it was the child income tax credit or universal school meals. So that additional support is gone, but the need for so many folks right now is still kind of at those peak COVID levels. We have inflation, right? All of us have seen how inflation continues to be so unpredictable and so real. And we continue to have supply chain challenges or even kind of global conflicts that are really changing what foods are available and when. And I think, it's this interesting time where we have a global food system, and all of these factors that are happening are really impacting what we're seeing on the ground and what the reality is looking like for so many of the folks that we work with. So in addition to kind of those aspects of the food scene, we have rising energy costs, housing costs, and food costs. So energy costs from last year are up 10%. Food costs are up 11.4%. And these increases are on top of prices that were already starting to really go up toward the tail end of 2021. So while these costs are impacting everyone, and I'm sure everyone on this call has noticed them in their own lives, the piece I wanted to remind us is that low-income households spend a much bigger share of their household budget on food. So for most folks, food is about 7 to 10% of a household budget. But according to a report from Partnership for Healthier America, for those in the lowest quartile, food is 27% of their household budget. So when you have an 11.4% increase in food costs and food is almost a third of your household budget, it really is tremendous pressure that folks are experiencing right now. I think this chart just kind of captures that, right? So many staples have just skyrocketed in prices and really making things super challenging. To give a little bit more concrete example, it's one thing to look at it in the macro, and sometimes it's a little easier to wrap your head around it in more of a micro situation. Apples, right? A staple item in so many areas of our work and for so many families have gone up 200% in the last 2 years. Holiday season, right? I know there's lots of different things people eat for the holidays, different cultural traditions, but some holiday staples like ham, turkey, green beans, corn, they're up about 20% this year. And then, even higher increases on some more kind of dry goods, right? Stuffing, potatoes, cranberry sauce, up between 45 to 55%. And so what we're seeing in all of this is that, especially during the holiday season, people just don't have any wiggle room, right? So there is definitely more folks coming to Twin Cities Mobile Market, more folks coming to Fare for All, needing to save money or pay attention to prices in a way that maybe they haven't before. And certainly we are seeing more folks coming to food shelves. So according to statistics that are gathered and kind of analyzed by Hunger Solutions Minnesota, we've got 10,000 people a day using food shelves. And so to kind of put that into context, we are on pace in 2022 to cross the 5 million food shelf visit mark. So when you think about need being higher than it's ever been, and food costs being higher than they've been, certainly at least in recent memory, it's a need for people to be incredibly creative to ensure that community members are getting the healthy, the culturally connected, the really good quality food that they so absolutely need and deserve. So on top of the kind of food cost scene, there is also a decrease in donated food right now in the emergency food system. So TFAP is a federal commodity food program allocated in the Farm Bill. The federal government really invested in TFAP as a COVID response strategy. So you can see nationally, that program jumped to $1.6 billion in food support in 2021. It's back down now to pre-COVID levels, right? So if you look at even what that means just for the food group, we had in 2020, 6.2 million pounds of TFAP that we were distributing. In 2022, that will be 2.6 million pounds. So basically a decrease of a third of donated product that we're able to provide to our food shelf partners. So I painted a bit of a bleak picture, at least it feels a little bleak, a little challenging, and a lot of forces beyond our control, right? So we've got things like global food supply, inflation, allocations in the Farm Bill. These are all things that the food group believes that we can influence, we need to have a voice on, we need to work in partnership about, but also big systems that take a long time to move. So I think the piece that when I reflect on 2022 has been the most hopeful and the most promising is that there are a lot of local impacts that we can have to make a difference, right? In the midst of all of these things feeling out of control, there are real changes that we can make and real ways that we can support a more just and equitable local food system, and that's such a piece of the puzzle and an important response. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about kind of some of the local food work that we're doing and ways that we are trying to support more local food in our communities. So Big River Farms, many of you know, is our land-based education program. We have a farm in Marina and St. Croix. Emerging farmers, especially farmers of color who have been so intentionally left out of our agriculture system, can have access to skills, to markets, and it's a way to get more local food into the economy and also more culturally connected foods. And in addition to helping people grow those local foods, the food group is really also thinking about how we can purchase local foods, right? So how can we purchase from our Big River Farms farmers and other local farmers so that in addition to getting, great food where it's needed, we can also use our institutional buying power, right, to support small businesses, create the local food system that is healthy and vibrant. And then what's cool about that is as we're doing more of that, community members love the food. So we have food shelf participants who are saying this produce is beautiful, it's organic, it's amazing, right? Hunger relief historically has been about rescue food, sometimes food that is on its last leg, right? That you need to get home and cook it immediately, right? And we have just heard so much positive feedback about the amazing quality and then the cool connections that can happen when people get to know their local farmers and see how amazing that food is. And that kind of takes me to the other part about local that I think is so inspiring and hopeful, and it's about the local connections between people. This work is only possible through deep collaborative partnership, right? So we are in partnership with so many amazing local farmers. We are in partnership with an amazing network of over 200 food shelves and meal programs, some of whom are on this call today. Policy organizations like Hunger Solutions, who I know is on the call today. We're in cross-sector partnerships like with Finnegan's, who's on the call today and who has long helped purchase food from local farmers to give away, knowing that, right, these beautiful products need to be available to everyone. And donors, corporate organizational partners, volunteers, right? It really truly takes all of us to kind of put these pieces together and in the face of what we're facing, right, to continue to show up and make sure that good food is available to those who need it most. So I like this slide because it feels aspirational and bold. Our local food system is ready if we are all ready to do the work, right? To come together, to invest, to advocate, to partner, to think strategically. I know at the food group, like we remain so inspired. But ultimately, right, the most important partner and the most important kind of contributor to this work is the folks who are struggling in the food system right now, the farmers who don't have access to land, or the folks who don't have enough money to make ends meet. And we know that the wisdom and the inspiration and the path for how we need to continue to evolve comes from engaging with those voices. And that's what we're staying grounded with and hopeful for as we look ahead to 2023 with all of you too. So I'm going to leave it there, and I would love to open it up to questions and conversation. So again, feel free to unmute yourself. Also feel free to hop in the chat if that feels easier. And Marita, thank you. I saw in the chat kind of just, fruits and veggies up across the board, right? So apples is sort of that shocking example, but yes. And I just read an article yesterday that lettuce is now jumping up in price. So again, it's some of these staples, and again, for low-income families, when food is such a big part of that budget, these are huge increases that can't always be absorbed. But do people have other questions, comments, thoughts on this snowy morning?
Thanks for offering this. It's really wonderful to see the video. Oh, wait.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because the conversations that I've been part of very recently have really highlighted how food group, various other initiatives in the area that are centering a racially just approach to creating the local food system. In my view, they're the ones that are providing that leadership that we need to invest in, and then talk to them about, okay, if we're going to build capacity for a really robust, locally adapted regional food system, how much money do you need? What kind of funds do you need to have that source to table model? So we're not relying on volunteers, we're not relying on charity. We're actually having that be a key publicly funded, publicly endorsed approach that frankly it's a practical necessity in the day of weather unpredictability or climate change, whichever term you'd like to use. Do you know how much money you would need to really build the capacity?
Wow, what a question. It's only 8:49. No, I'm totally teasing.
If you don't, you have the rest of the day to answer it, right?
Okay, perfect. I'll work on that in the next couple hours. Well, here's what I know about that is it can't be one. It can't be one organization. It can't even be one sector, right? And I think that's the really interesting piece of it will take amazing entrepreneurship, it will take public investment, it will take nonprofit partnership, right? It really, and I think that's what's so both hopeful and challenging about it, because there isn't kind of that silver bullet. It's not if we can get one pot of money to one institution or organization, right? The food system is so interconnected with growers, with eaters, and with so many people in between. But I do think that there is more dialogue happening about what is a regional infrastructure, right? And I know there's great thinkers on the aggregation side or there's all sorts of elements in that. So the food group, it's interesting because as a nonprofit, I think so much of our job is about filling the gaps that exist in the system. And we're so grateful to have partners in philanthropy who are able to help us do that, right? Ideally, though, if the system works properly, nonprofits like the food group then, right, would shrink because you would have a sustainable system. So I don't know, that's how I think about it, at least, that we are really trying to fill the gaps in the system right now. while trying to stay in partnership with those who are thinking about how we fill them more sustainably and more long-term. Other questions? Okay, have we been okay? I see a question in the chat from Piper about the local food purchasing assistance program that the Department of Agriculture is currently working on. I don't think anything is official yet. I think they're still doing listening sessions from the public to kind of inform that program. But I think it's what's interesting about it is there is more federal investment in helping local food purchasing right now. And I think that's really good. And I'm hopeful that that will create more infrastructure, right? That we can continue to build out and support. And then I see another question in the chat about why are we so secretive about our work? No, it's not exactly that question. But it's a question about kind of Second Harvest and seeing a lot of news about food that doesn't always include the food group. And I really appreciate that question. You know, it's been an interesting strategic decision for us about how you invest your organizational resources, right? And we are trying as hard as we can to invest as many of our resources as possible in food and in community engagement and in really building up our kind of grassroots community partnerships. That is sometimes really different than investing in PR and advertising and kind of casting a really wide net for donors. And so it's a balance, certainly, but we sometimes work behind the scenes only because we don't have a big staff to capture it. So I guess I'll say that. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but again, we work in partnership with Second Harvest. We work in partnership with so many folks because it takes so many of us doing kind of different things, right? To really get the system how it needs to be. I think we do have time for another question or two if anyone else has one.
Hey, Sophia, I'll ask a question. I noticed in the slide that you showed around food shelf visits that there was just like a tiny dip around 2020, 2021. And I'm curious if that's due to the influx of federal food support.
Yeah.
And if so, I'm curious what kinds of policies should the food system, knowing that's like a huge question, but what kind of policies should we be looking at in the future or be supportive of to help really start to change that trend?
Thank you, Leah. Leah's a board member. It's like that was a planted question, but we really didn't talk about it beforehand. So I think that is a really, really important point. So when you take something like even the child income tax credit, it got so many resources directly into family budgets, right? That means food is just more available, right? People could afford it more. So you have things like that, school meals being free, which frees up money for other food, right? So I think absolutely, you know, when we look at those statistics, I think for sure there were federal policies that kind of raised the level of income in households. And so we need to keep advocating for things like that. I know Hunger Solutions, General Mills, and the Center for Prevention at Blue Cross are leading a campaign this session for universal school meals in Minnesota and making sure that school meals are free for kids. A policy like that is something the food group really supports because, again, if we can take the pressure off trying to pay for school meals, take the lunch shaming issue off the table for families, right? You can take some of that pressure off the emergency food system. So I think it's a lot around income supports and certainly housing, right? A lot of the folks who are using food shelves are talking about the unaffordability of housing and how that is putting tremendous pressure on their food budget. So it really is kind of multi-pronged. And yes, Rob from Every Meal is here and had a great point that school lunches are getting more and more expensive. So the same inflationary pressures, right, that are hitting all of us are showing up on that side, and families are being asked to pay more too. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Laura to just kind of talk about some ways to stay involved. Sharon, we see your question around public fundraising events. I think to be determined, we did pre-COVID and we're still sort of figuring that out, but Laura's going to kind of just share some other ways to stay involved and engaged with the food group here in the next few months. So I'll kick it over to Laura.
Thanks, Sophia. Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name's Laura Mirafuentes. I'm the Associate Director of Development here at the Food Group. And we're just so grateful for you taking the time to be here today. It really means a lot. I know you're all very busy people. It's the holidays, everyone's quite busy. So really grateful for you investing in this work with us this morning. I also just wanted to call out, we've got lots of partners on this call, lots of donors, volunteers, and I know we have at least 1 or 2 farmers on the call too. So all of you are really valuable players in this work. So thank you so much for engaging with us. And we want to invite you to engage more. We're always looking for volunteers. That's one way you can get involved. Continuous opportunities in our warehouse to help pack and sort this food that goes out into the community. We're looking for folks that are affordable grocery sites to help get groceries to folks that need them. And then plenty of farm and seasonal opportunities at farmers markets as well. So visit our website if you would like to volunteer or learn more about that. Another way to get involved is to donate. And so your gifts really do power all of the work that we do here at the Food Group. And we are so grateful to our amazing donors. Now is a really great time to give as well. I know it's the giving season. We also have some really amazing matches from some partners going on right now. Luther Auto we just met a $75,000 match from Luther Auto, which is amazing. And we've moved on to a new match by Ameriprise. And so grateful for those partners. Basically, those matches mean that $1 equates to $2, which then means 4 meals rather than 2. So those really make a difference. So you can also donate online or contact us if you'd like to learn more. And then finally, we would like you to all also pay attention to upcoming calls for action. So you can tune into our email and social media channels and respond to our calls to make your voice heard by our political leaders. Sophia talked about a few policies. We know we have a really big budget surplus right now in our state. And so as we move into the next legislative session, it's just a really great time to make your voice heard and direct some of those resources to building a better food system here locally. And so we encourage you to just stay tuned and engage with your policymakers in that way. And so with that, I think we'll wrap it up here. Thanks again, Sophia, for your lovely presentation. Also to Jadea, she's our staff person who created those slides, and to all the others who helped us get the word out about this event. And yes, lastly, just thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to be here. Reach out with any questions after this webinar, and we'll make sure to send out the recording as well afterwards. So have a great holiday season and drive safe if you're going anywhere.
Thank you
so
all.
much.
Happy holidays.